Welcome, everyone, to our weekly Torah learning of spreading more light into the world. We always like to start off with giving because how we give, that's how Hashem's going to give to us. Let's give generously, so Hashem will give us generously. I'm going to put some coins in the tzedakah box. Please join me from home. We always like to start off with Tehillim because the Tzemach Tzedek said if we only knew the power of Tehillim, we would say it day and night. Today, we're going to do a special mention for all couples waiting for their children, that they should be blessed. And so we're including all of you in this in Kapitel Chaf, which is Psalm 20, and for all the hostages to come home, and for Mashiach to come immediately, and for everyone, whatever they need. Lam Natseach Mizmar LeDavid Yamcha Adonai B'Yom Tzara. Yisagevcha Shem Elahei Kaiv Yishlach Ezracha Mikadesh. Umitzian Yisadeka Yiskarko Min Chaysecha Ve'elascha Yidash Nesela. Yitain Lacha Chil Vavecha V'Cholotes Chayim Elei. Naranana B'Shuasecha V'Shem Eloheinu Nidgoyim Elei Adonai Kol Mishalei Secha. Ata Yudaiti Ki Yoshia Adonai Mishechaya Nehu Mishmeka Chai B'Goris Eshayim Minai. Elav Arecha V'Elav Asusim Ba'anachnu B'Shem Adonai Eloheinu Nasker. Hema Karu V'Nafalo V'Anachnu Kamnu V'Nisaidan. Adonai Hashia Hamelach Yaninu V'Yem Perennium. We're dedicating this class in merit for the complete refuah shalema for Chani and Rivka Bas Shendel, Yosef ben Devorah Leah, Yosef Yitzchak ben Bela, Razel Bas Hadas, Rafal Chaim Meir ben Sima Chasha, Yosef Shlomo ben Risha, Devorah Leah Bas Yafa Liba, Mercedes ben Esther, Tzipporah Bas, Yocheved Zisel, Gershon Leib Ben Menucha, and everybody that needs, they should have a complete refuah shalema. We're including you in these names. We're also dedicating this class to the Chayalim and Chayalo, and Hashem should protect them for their very important mission. We're going to mention one name of a Chayal, but we're including everyone. Menach for complete protection for all. Menachem Mendel Ben Sarah Rella, Hashem should protect him and all of his brothers and sisters. I dedicate this class weekly in memory of my dear grandmother, Rivka Dina Bas Yosef Yehuda. I hope you're proud. In honor of Chaim Dov ben Betzalo, known as Chaim Dover ben Betzalo. He was known as Chaim Ber Elshansky. To save a life is saving a world, and he saved many in the Soviet Union. So I'm honored. My great uncle, also my other grandmother, Bela Bas Betzalo. And we are dedicating this class to Sanya Zahara Bas David. She was perished in a terrible fire this year, and may her family be comforted, and may they merit to be reunited with the coming of Mashiach. I also dedicate this class to my dear uncle who recently passed away, Rabbi Lipsker, known as Reb Sholem Dover ben Eliyahu Akiva. Not every giant is a gem, and not every gem is a giant. Rabbi Lipsker was both a giant and a gem. May we see him so soon with the coming of Mashiach. So today I have a very special guest with us, and I am going to introduce him. So welcome today with us. We have Rabbi Bochner. He started the most incredible organization called Bonai Olam, and now he has branches all over the world. And we are going to get to know him a little bit. And I'm humbled and honored to have him here with us. I met him once in person, and let me tell you, humbled that you're here with us today. So Rabbi Bochner, welcome.
Thank you.
I feel very lucky to do this interview. We are going to share this interview on Tisha B'Av, please God, but we're recording it beforehand. And why am I choosing to share it on Tisha B'Av? Because everyone needs something, and we need to pray really hard for people to bring in children into this world. And I myself and my husband are waiting for children, so it's something that's very meaningful to me. So I hope this interview will be meaningful to you. So Rabbi Bochner, I was speaking to your incredible staff, and I just found out that you grew up in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. So can you tell us a little bit about your childhood and your family life and who your parents are?
Yes, actually, I have very fond memories. We lived on 367 Montgomery Street between Rogers and Nostrand. So when I moved away from Crown Heights, I was still a little boy, but the memories are very fun. I many times go back to that house just to see the house where I grew up as a little child. And obviously today there's no except the house, there's no memory. The other people are living there. It's a different kind of a setting. But those streets that I paced and ran and played and cherished, and in the winter with the snowballs and in the summer with the bikes, yes, it's a very loving. And in those days, it was a very loving community too. It was mainly being inhabited by Jews. We used to daven in a shul, a corner President Street. It was called the President Stiebel, which Rabbi Harlick, and there's a big Harlick family in Chabad, but I still davened with their grandfather. And there was a shul which everybody was there from all different kinds of walks of life. It was a very warm, like in those days, a very warm community. I remember my doctor, my pediatrician living, our block gets cut off in the middle. In the middle, there's a street that goes up on a mountain. It's like a half a street and a half a street. And the doctor used to live up there, but we used to be scared to turn around that corner because he always came home. He gave us the injections. It was painful. It was hurtful. Just very, very fond memories. Now, you're talking about Chabad. So we were little kids, and my mother, Aliyah Shalom, we were raised in a very, very from Hasidic home, but I would say a little bit more liberally minded. In other words, we understood that there are other people, and we were raised that to respect everybody, and who everybody is big, we should try to get close to these people. So we come from Baba Chassidim, but walking from our house to Baba, we had to pass first Eastern Parkway. So obviously, Chabad was the Babich in those days. We used to call the Babich not Chabad. This was the main attraction. So my mother, when we were small children, I remember her taking me to the Lag Boimer parades. I remember even the Rebbe standing there and talking and speaking, and we went for dollars in those days too. It wasn't such a long line as later on. But that street, we used to be there Simchas Torah. There were special days which we were taken there by our parents, which left very, very fond memories. Actually, when I grew up and I became a Bochner, which I was already not living in Karnatz anymore, but it remained a very strong taste me from Chabad. I used to travel a lot whenever there was a Fabrengen or a Fabrengen which was supposed to be something interesting. So I used to go a lot. I was there very, very often. But I was a shy person. I just came in, listened, and I walked home. I didn't have any friends or any family in the Chabad in the Lubavitch. But this was the icon for us. This was the most beautiful thing. You know, parents looked a little bit different those days than today. We weren't so afraid to walk in the street. It was a little bit more of a secure. So everything was much more enjoyed. Yeah, but it was very, very fond memories. We used to go to Prospect Park a lot. I remember going for Tashlach. But if I remember, I'm just thinking, I think I was there once. Does the Rebbe go on Rosh Hashanah for Tashlach? Yeah, he does. So I remember one time I was there, and the Rebbe was there. The lake is a little bit like a swinging lake, so we were standing among. Then we saw a large crowd of people. I asked, "Who was it?" So now I remember. This goes back, almost 65 years ago. And we ran over to watch the Rebbe there by the water there. Talking about it brings me back a lot of fond memories. Little did I know that later on in life, whatever my mission in life is going to be, and from all the thousands of people that I was able to be part of their family, Chabad always took a very, very prominent place. Maybe it's a little bit nostalgia, or maybe I don't know. But it's also because in my work, when I started working, we had, now that I remember our place of work, it was a big company, a big store, a retail store, and we had a lot of Lubavitcher customers. We had a lot of employees, Lubavitcher. So this was something that came along with us, with life. I also learned in London, in the Bava Yeshiva, and there also we had a very, very fond connection to Chabad. We used to have a lot of Malkas together. It was also a very different setting. Europe is a little bit different than the United States. Bottom line, it's to me just as any other group of people, just a group of people that I knew when I was young. Something that you know from young, has a certain sense, a taste of fondness in you, and you relate to it in a different way, so to speak. But
Wow.
the main part is we're older now. Life gave all of us our challenges, our nisyonis, but here I am, and we're up to close to 14,000 children all over the world.
Wait, let's go back a little bit because I want to hear more about you, if that's okay. So, why did your family move out of Crown Heights? Because back in the day, Crown Heights, like you said, was a beautiful community. It still
But,
is. It's back to a beautiful
but in
community.
our neighborhood, very quickly, more than any other parts of Crown Heights, became mamish askana to live there. I remember in our block, they were moving in other elements of people, which I like in the tropes. In a very short span of time, we couldn't get buses to pick us up to take us to yeshiva. It became mamish like not livable.
Like it wasn't
Also,
safe. It wasn't safe
it
anymore.
wasn't safe. And also, when you get pressure that a lot of neighbors are moving out, that adds on a little bit more. Sometimes you can stay and try to fight it out. But when everybody around you is packing their bags and running, and you stay there alone, this is not something which is comfortable. And we're all young little children. My mother, Leah Shulm, had to keep us locked in the house. We couldn't go out of the house. We were afraid. So, it compounds till you finally decide to move out.
Wow. So your parents were Holocaust survivors. Can you tell
Yes.
us a little bit about their life, what you know about them, because it's challenging to grow up with that.
I have to say, my parents were Holocaust survivors, and I don't think it was challenging. I think it shaped us and it formed us in a very beautiful way. My parents, whatever they went through, my father was in concentration camp from 1939 to 1944, 6 years. They were never bitter. My parents were not bitter. My mother, Leisham, didn't want to talk too much about her experiences. She felt it wasn't that important to bring up sad times. My father, Oliver Shul, never stopped talking about it, but not in a way that he was angry at Hashem or there was no bitterness. This was a challenge in his son. Also, my father came from a very poor home in the first place. He used to sometimes quip about it that going from his home to the concentration camp, except being tortured by the Nazis, but food wise and clothing wise, there wasn't too much of a difference. That's from what kind of poor background they came. But no, it wasn't bitter. Just we learned how grateful we have to be for whatever Hashem gave us. My mother always used to teach us, kinderlich, whatever you don't have, you don't need. In other words, stop wanting things that we cannot supply, but we are a very tight family. We're all there for each other. No, we weren't dressed in the most fancy clothes versus other kids those days, but we had a very, very warm home. Father always worked very hard for Panasa, and Shabbos was the day that he tested us. Oh, we had to know this stuff really good. And mommy always was our protector whenever we did not know this stuff, like every home, warm home. No, but we learned a lot. We understood the pain what their parents went through, what challenges people life could come across people. And my mother used to always say that a person should never have to endure what he really could endure. In other words, never be tested how much a person really can do. It was a little bit of difference with my mother and my father, two very different characters altogether. My mother was an extremely, extremely intelligent woman. She comes from a very, very big our father was a huge Talmud Chacham. She comes from a learning background. My father did not come from such a learning background, but from a very Chassidish background. So there was a little bit different, but this is life. This is Tati, this is Mommy, and this is how we were raised. We were there for each other in the most beautiful way. It's a pity we lost our one and only sister. She was born, I'm the youngest from my four brothers. She was younger than me with 6 years, so she was quite a little. She was born in Crown Heights. I remember her kiddush was on Shvius. But we were a very, very, very warm and tight and worrying family. I remember my little sister went to camp. I was already a bigger boy. I used to go there every Sunday to bring her whatever she needed as a sister. My older brother used to come to me. No, we had actually, in that sense, we had a very, very nice family background.
How
closest convert.
how did you take it that you lost your sister at such a young age?
Very hard because from all my brothers, I was the closest to her because I was the closest in age to her. My older brother from her was at least 12 years apart. In other words, he hardly knew her. He was already away in yeshiva when she was just starting to grow up. But I was older than her, I think between 5 and 6 years. So I was most of the time together with her at home. So when all my brothers were married, I was still home with my sister, with my mother, with my parents. So we became the closest. And then she actually got married and she moved to Israel. She lived in Israel, which my father never forgave her for. He missed her so badly while she picked herself up when she moved. At that time, my mother was not alive anymore. So she was missed sorely. But then, unfortunately, she got ill. And they kept it as a secret from me personally. I don't know why. And I would have definitely handled her medical file differently than what they did on their own. But it is what it is. And then she got so sick. She came to America. I met her one more time, and I saw how she was feeling. I was, and almost a few weeks later, after that, she passed away. She was extremely intelligent person. She lived in Yerushalayim, and I used to go there a lot to her from America. I used to fly, not even so much to being in Israel, because I wanted to be together with her. She had a beautiful family of children, all big to me, the nice people, warm people. Every Friday night, she used to leave the table. She used to go to a shul in Shalim. I think it was the Kalina shul, if I remember correctly. And there used to be a gathering there from women, which she spoke for them every Friday night. Women from all walks of life. In other words, totally not affiliated with anything, not from people. But this was her mitzvah that every Friday she used to leave the whole family, used to come back late at night. So we all had it a little bit in our genes and our blood to be there but she was an extremely intelligent person. So I do miss her till today. She's gone already for many, many years. She's gone for 11 and a half, almost 12 years.
Wow. So can you just say her full name so we can elevate her neshama?
Her name was Glika Chava Esther Bat Yehudis.
May her neshama have the highest aliyah.
Oh,
May you be
right.
reunited with Mashiach. Though someone came, I just want to share this with you. Maybe this will give you some comfort. But someone came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and they said that their grandfather passed away, and they were mourning a lot. It was very hard for the family, and the Rebbe said they're just one floor up, and you can send them messages and gifts through spiritual mitzvos and Torah. That's what the soul.
I didn't know that Rebbe said that, but I use the same line whenever I need that line. I don't know.
So I will, after this program, I will send you a video of Rabbi Gordon sharing the story with Esther, and she'll share it with you because it's fabulous and it brings a lot of comfort to many people in mourning. So, yeah. So may her neshama be fully elevated, and may we
I
seek
would
her.
like
It
to
is
add
elevated.
I would like to add a chilling note. It might be useful for this podcast because we can learn a lot. She passed away was Friday night. One of my brothers was there. I was home. Don't remember why I did not travel. Look, it was a time obviously I couldn't travel. So when I came home from Shul Matzah Shabbos, the news was awaiting me that even though I knew how bad it was such a painful shock to me. My body reacts when extremes happen. I go into very high temperature. This is my reaction to it. This is the nature of my. I rarely got 104, 105 temperature within seconds. But it was very. I sat down on the couch and started to cry and cry. I couldn't. But then I saw that I'm so sick I can't even get up from the chair. So I told my wife, Khani, I don't know what about. Anyway, she packed me up. We went into the doctor, and he let me in right away. I told him I have to start sitting shiva in here. All of a sudden, I'd gotten strep within seconds. I was fine a minute before. But I really became ill. My father was still alive. So we were four brothers. I was the youngest. My father, but then lost his wife, my mother. He lost by then, no, his second wife was still around. He lost his brother and two or three sisters. It wasn't the best of moods. So I came back and I sat down on the couch, took off the seat. It should be a shiva chair. Then the whole we started to negotiate who's going to tell Tati about that his daughter's not here. He didn't have a clue that she was so ill. This is going to be a total shock for him. And everybody said, I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm not going. I told him, I'm not going because I'm sick at home. I can't even join you for Shiva. I'm so ill that I can't even pick myself up. The temperature was. But I was used already once, and one of his sisters passed away. That they gave me the mitzvah to go tell my father. Father was an extremely strong person in these areas, all for what he went through in life in the concentration camp. And for him losing his father and his mother, which he tried to protect till the last second, this is all what he spoke about all his life, about his parents, his parents, his parents. So go tell him that he lost his daughter was mamash, but I couldn't. Sunday morning comes around. I'm sitting. Nobody yet in the street knew that my mother. She lived in Israel. It was late at night, not Shabbos. So I'm sitting there on the couch, and the sun was brightly shining into the. It was an ador, and the sun felt so comforting and so warm. But there's nobody there. It's quiet. Then all of a sudden, my mind wanders away, and I start thinking, what happens now in Shemayim to my sister's neshama? She just came up. Shabbos, there's no activity in Shemayim about judging the Neshama, so now it's the first day, it's Sunday. How is she being judged? What is happening to my sister? I don't know why, but this is the way the thought came to my mind. And the phone rings, my phone. And I look at the number. I don't recognize this number, so I pick up the phone. It says, are you Rabbi? It was a female, it was a woman. Are you Rabbi Bochner? I said, yes. Did you have a sister, Glickle? I said, yes. I says, is it true that she passed away? I says, yes, but who are you and how would you know that? So she told me her name. It's scary. I tell you, Hashem runs this world so precise to the second. This girl was a girl that when we were growing up already in Borough Park, we lived on 45th, corner 16th. And my sister still was a little young girl. And all of a sudden, one day she comes home and she tells me, my mother, that a family moved around the block from us. A father alone, unfortunately, a widower. He lost his wife. They came from Canada. And moved here with a boy and with a girl. That's all he had, the two children. And today, this girl was brought into class as the first time in school. So, okay, I did not know anything about that family. And I hear how my sister is explaining to my mother, Leah Shalom, Ma, this girl she looks like she comes from a very broken home. And my mother asked her, why you say that? She says, because she didn't come dressed the way a girl comes to school. She's not being taken care. You can see when a person's not being. So my mother says, did you get up and make her comfortable? Welcome her to class? To see, says, Ma, who am I? There's a whole classroom of kids. But then I hear her tell my mother, then they found out from her that she's a Yisoima, a young little girl. The girl must have not been older in those days. I would say like 7, 8 years old, according to my memory. To make a long story short, my mother said, so you have a Yisoima class, just came from Canada. She lives around the block from you. I think we all go and welcome the family. So she tells my mother, Ma, this is not it's not really my type. It's not, Shefala, we're going. And my mother went and took my sister, and they went around the block, and they saw the girl. Her name was Rivki. And since then, an interesting closeness developed. My mother I used to hear my mother tell my sister, you going for a trip today? Is Rivki sitting next to you on the bus? They went to camp, and I remember my sister on the phone from one of the many phone calls making who's going to be sleeping in whose room, the friends. And my mother, I always used to hear my mother say, look, I hope you're including Rivki in your room too. That's the way it should be. Whenever they went on a trip, my mother gave along for my sister a bag of nash and another bag for Rivki. And my sister, as much as she did not appreciate doing it in the beginning, because my sister was one of the machas in the class, this was ever, but she learned. Nothing will start in class. Nothing's going to happen until Rivki is going to be. And I remember once her telling my mother, you should know, mommy, that it's a challenge for me. It's an assignment for me because she's not. I'm not having the real machas in class along with me. because she's always dragging along with me like a little. So I always tell this is the mitzvah. This is the thing she should always be. So we grew up for years together. Here I'm sitting, Shiva for my sister, and this girl says, "My name is Rifki." I say, "Is this the Rifki that lived around the block from us?" She says, "Yes." It was so, and then she started to cry. She says, if you would only know what your sister was to me. She was my sister. She was my mora. She helped me get dressed in clothing that I should be one of the girls, not always a standout on her own. Just a little bit a view how our home was. We were not a wealthy family at all, but this was the main thing for my mother to make sure. So she's on the phone, and after crying, I put on the phone and I thought to myself, if the Rebbe only would remember now the schus, what she did for a Yisrael, because we all know Hashem is very sensitive about an almana and a Yisrael and a Yisrael. And this thought came to me in that moment when she just passed away, and like I felt like this was a message from Hashem. This is the schus exactly we need it to be now. We spoken about that there should be a malach melitz yosef for Haneshama and the world ago. And it came along with a very eerie feeling. And I'm not a superstitious person altogether. Actually, I'm quite the opposite. If I'm only afraid I'm going to become superstitious, I walk away from it. But this was some kind of very, very, very eerie feeling that this is actually what's happening now in Shemayim. Yeah, good deeds come across to you when you need them most. Hashem, I guess, stores them for you whenever it's going to be challenging. But we miss her. She definitely broke up the family forever in a way. First of all, she was one and only girl, a bunch of 4 boys. So automatically she was much more a cherished member of the family. But also, she was not here a lot. It's gone, it's over. Her children are married, they have their families, they're marrying off their children. But this is all part, a little bit of the mosaism of our family.
Wow, I was just crying. What a beautiful person, and may all her schusim bring her back with
Yeah,
Mashiach, because
right.
those are what we should live for, just to be the reason someone smiles today, and especially people that need it. The people that need it, we should give them the most attention and love. So thank you for
We
sharing.
should also learn from this that especially Hasidim are very different than all the other people, because we know this was the foundation of Hasidus was to be there for another person. If you're not there for another person, whichever way, it could be just learning, it could be just giving good information on a person. It doesn't always have to be money, but having another person in mind, you should know it goes a very long way. Even though we learned it, we were taught that we always have to be there for other people. But sometimes you get a lesson in life, you see that this is the real thing what Hashem wants from us. And Haskos from so many years back, 50, 60 years before, this is the thought that came up now in those painful moments when she just passed away. Yeah, we have to learn from it. And we all get a chance to do it. The Gemara tells us, the Chazal tell us, Yesh kaina aloma b'shu achas. There's a person that can buy his world in 1 second. Means one good deed is brought down many times in Shas and the Gemara. Different stories how a person that wasn't the biggest tzaddik and he was able to do something big. And yet, also there's a Mama Chazal that Eilecha Adam Sha'ayin Shah. Hashem gives this chance for every person during his lifetime. Very interesting Chazal. It's even more interesting than the first one. A person can never say, "Oh, if I was only given that child, that joy, if I only would have meet up with that Yosef, that Yisrael, that Almona, that childless couple, whatever, I would have done anything." Everybody gets a chance to do it. Some people have the chus to take note of it and do something with it, and unfortunately, for some people, it just passes over. I guess we need a chus for that on its own. But yeah, we're here for others. Bottom line,
When a mitzvah comes your way, don't turn it away.
absolutely.
And like, we come down in this world just to do a mitzvah for another, and if we choose not to do the mitzvah, then Hashem will give it to someone else. So, also someone came to Reb Hillel and they said, "Teach me the Torah on 1 foot," and he said, "V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha." to love your fellow Jew like yourself. So that was so beautiful. So before we go to your life getting married, I want to ask you if you can share. I want to honor your mother's holy neshama and your father's holy neshama. If you could share one special story about your mother and then one special story about your father, and if you could share their full names.
So it's interesting. When my father passed away, my father enjoyed to live a life up to 101 years old. He just passed away a year and a half ago. He was, when he was put into the box and the children were there, because by us there's a minute the children tie a gartel around. I don't know where this minute comes from. It's the first time in life that ever came to us. And he was laying there in the box with his hands open, spread open. And I looked at those hands and I said, my gosh, these hands are 101 years old. And these hands served Hashem 101 years. From when he was a child, all his challenges and his journeys and the war, and later on after the war, raising his family in Panosa, then my mother later becoming so ill. My mother was so ill for many, many years. And here the man is in the box after 101 years. It was just recollection of how, but I just want to say something very interesting about my father. My father was a very, very elecha person. In other words, he didn't do anything wrong majorly in life. Some people by nature will always walk the middle of the road, never take chances with the side of the road. My father more or less was that kind of a person to stay away, but he definitely had his major challenges. I had with him a lot more, I don't know exactly which word to use, much more interaction, sometimes not to the most comfortable, happy timings, because I was the only one in the family struggling not having children. So you have to understand, he was the father of the whole family. All my brothers and sisters had huge, large Blianha families. So I was always a little bit like, this always is the story with their childless couple in a large family, that you're always out, out of the loop. Whether it is that way because we ourselves don't feel comfortable being with them, so we actually exclude ourselves from the group. Or other people might not be comfortable with us because they don't know how to react. They don't want to hurt us. Everybody means good. Nobody means bad. But the Messiah says that you're not part of the family. And within time, a certain sense of anger starts building up in a person. We all are human beings. And in those days, there was no Hanukkah today. It was not like Hanukkah today. And my father, when we were growing up, there wasn't such a thing. We got together families every night for Hanukkah parties and lavish Purim parties. Those days, everything was much more subdued. Everything was more, but nevertheless, I was never, I don't know, me and my wife never felt comfortable going to a simcha, to a vachar. So it bothered my father a lot. My father was a very much family person, and it bothered him. And it bothered me why he doesn't understand why I'm not comfortable. But I have to say, people from before the war with children after the war were far furthermore removed from understanding each other. It's different than the father and the child were born in the same place, under the same environment. My father came from a life where he was happy, he had a piece of bread, not to die of death, of hunger. This world to him was like, America was like, you're living in Gan Eden. So he didn't understand how can anybody complain. So I think that was for many years a little bit, I wouldn't say the word rift, but I would say not being close to my father. My father had by that time remarried another woman, very, very nice person. And they were never home on the winters. They were older people already. So I would say almost 25 or almost 30 years, I had very little to do with my father. Just when his second wife died and he didn't travel anymore, and he was home all the time, a certain sense of closeness started developing. He was searching for me that I should somehow, and I did whatever I can. I accepted it, but I had once with him a very interesting interaction. That one time I had a very, very, very hard. I think I once recorded already, but I'm going to make it very brief. I I never used to daven in the morning together with my father in the same minyan. This was something which I always watched for because I wasn't, sometimes I used to come to shul and I had a very hard night. My face actually sometimes could be red that I'm not the happiest person. My father used to be very much hurt seeing me that way. So this was an interesting way how I was being kind of the mitzvah from Kibbutz Av, that I did not want to daven in the same minyan with him. There's in Babel, there's a factory of minyanim, just like any big shul. There's always time and place to find another minyan, my father. But one particular morning, I had a very, without going into details, it was a very, well, I think it was one of my hardest days that I had in my life. I had to go to daven, but I was so not with the program that I came into shul, put on my talis and put on my, started daven, and then all of a sudden, out the corner of my eye, I see my father standing, Mom's 2 tables away. I told myself, it's just not going to work. Not going to work. And I saw, sometimes you feel with a pair of eyes locks in with another. I saw how my father locked in his eyes on me, and I saw that he understood. So I turned around, took off my talis and film, packed into a bag, and just ran out of shul. I'll daven at home already. And as I'm walking out, I hear my father coming after me. He was an older man then, but he was already, probably a high 70s or 80. And he's calling me. And I did not respond. I just didn't have. I knew if I respond now and anything happens, it's going to be dynamite. It's going to just. I had so much pain in me that moment. I won't be able to control myself. Why should I say something, do something later on, be so sorry that I did? I figured, let me run away from the situation. I ran down the block, and my father chased me with his talents and film on. And he started screaming my name. So then I figured, I have to stop. I can't. So I stopped. So he caught up with me and he says, what is going on with you? You look worse than I looked in the concentration camp. But those were that's exactly the straw that broke the camel's back. I told you, Ty, I really was not going to answer you anything else. But since you brought up the concentration camp, I want you to understand, you think the concentration camp was the worst thing a person can go through in his life. I want to tell you, Ty, I don't want to hurt you, but 6 years in concentration camp doesn't come to 1 hour in my life. 1 hour in my life is a lot more painful and hurtful than your entire 6 years in the concentration camp. And he says, and why are you saying that? I said, Tom, you were all there together with thousands of people. You were not different than anybody else. Everybody was hungry. Everybody was tired. Everybody was being beat up. Everything was together. I live a life of pain, but in a civilized world, I still have to perform like a normal human being. I cannot decide not putting on film today. I asked my father in 6 years of concentration, have you ever had a chance even to put on film if you wanted? He says, no. We're not giving you. So it didn't bother you that I'm putting on film. If I don't put on film, it's going to hurt me. But I'm going through a challenge that I can't always be at the matzah to understand what am I doing. I'm putting on film. I'm talking to Hashem. I told him life in a civilized world in pain is way harder than life, which is in pain when everybody else is in pain. It's a different kind of a. So he told me, I'm trying to remind the same exact words. He says, you shouldn't talk that way. You shouldn't say that way because it's not this the way it is. I went through very hard times in life also. And he started giving me a little bit, Musa, this is not the way a person should be looking like. I says, Ty, you're never going to understand me. And I just picked myself up. He was still talking and I left because I feel like another 2 minutes, this is going to be years later. But my sister passed away. That's at least 10 or 12 years after this happening. I always was sorry that I behaved that way to my father, but I just couldn't control it. So we're all sitting shiva for my sister, my brothers, my father. Then came some kind of a lunchtime minute where everybody walked out of the room. I was left with my father alone. It was hard for him to get up, so we had to serve him. So I pulled up my chair next to him and I tell him, Ta, I owe you an apology. I was sure he would never know what I'm talking about. He looked at me, studied me, and says, yes, an apology is accepted. We didn't even speak about it for so many years with each other. Both knew it's a very painful situation. But he was nice enough that he understood not to touch this painful subject again. And he accepted my apology in a most graceful way. I wasn't right. I didn't do the right thing. But I just was not. Sometimes the person in pain is not to be judged to deal with moments in life around him with a lot of sanity because you're just not in control.
I just want to interrupt you for our viewers. Why didn't you think you did the right thing?
Because the bottom line is he's my father. There's a mitzvah in the Torah which is said so many times, kibbut avim. Even though I did not do this in a way that I didn't want to be respectful for him, I just felt like that he will never understand me, never understand my pain. And therefore, I might as well cut it off before I say something even. I was talking in pain. It wasn't him. If it would be somebody else that stopped in the street with the same message, I would have said the same thing. It wasn't that I had anger. Maybe there is, think back about it. Maybe we do have a certain sense of anger at parents when things go wrong because you always have to be angry at somebody. So we all know whoever's near or dear really gets it. Maybe there was a tinge of that also. It just wasn't the right thing to speak that way to a father. But I actually, the more I talk about it, I have to say, the more I get now remembering the feeling that I was upset at my father, that he's not sensitive enough to my feelings. The other hand, I was down him lekafschus. How should he be? He doesn't even know. He doesn't understand this man. Do I understand what he went through in the concentration camp? Yes, I read a lot about it, but I was not there. I never felt it on my own skin. How should my father? Then it goes back. Well, he's my father. I'm his son. Why shouldn't he feel that? So I guess within years of wallowing in pain, there are certain resentments that are built up in a person, whether he likes it or he doesn't accept us. But this is the way we are. This is part, I guess, from the sign, the challenge that we have to understand that everything comes only from the Bonei Olam. It has nothing to do with my father. Father doesn't owe me anything. He didn't create our matzav. He did the best he can. And
A matzav is a situation.
right, right. And sometimes, yes, I'm older now. I look back. I've dealt already by now with tens of thousands of people in Klal Yisrael, many different levels of pain, whether it was cancer, whether it's genetics, and some people not only temporary issues, but terminal issues. Yes, the more you're dealing with it, and you get to feel that people that are in pain have a certain sense of anger to society, so to speak. But this comes naturally because they're in pain, they're different than the other people. It doesn't mean the other people did something wrong. But to parents, I guess it takes more of a pronounced um, feeling that my father, but after that, for the last 10 years of his life, I became extremely close to him. He was extremely proud of Bonai Olam, extremely proud. At the beginning, when he used to tell me about Bonei Olam, I used to wonder, this man is almost 90 years old. What does he know about it? What does it really talk to him?
I
But he
just want to
was,
interrupt you for 1 second. We're gonna, after this next story, when you share about your mom, we're gonna share how Bonei Olam started because a lot of people tuning in have no idea what Bonei Olam is,
okay,
and we're giving you a little bit of fast forward, and then we're gonna go a little backwards.
okay. So you want to explain
No,
now?
no. First, I want you to finish with your father. The last 10 years, you were extremely
Yes, so I
close.
became very close with him. And since I had this chus to take care of Bonei Olam, he used to count every baby that was born. It became like a hobby of his. And there was 2 years ago, there was a beautiful video that came out from me and my father together. He was being interviewed. And he said that time online, which I was wondering why he said that, because he has very beautiful children, to me, the Chachamim. And he said that one line that all the years he was in pain, he was talking things when he's closer to 100, his true feelings that we never heard from him before. I guess at this point he felt more freer to elaborate on his hidden feelings to many things. So he said, all my years, I had a lot of pain from you, from me. My name is Schlomo, because we never had grandchildren from you, and we were always in pain for you, whichever way the story goes. But now, seeing what you and your wife have accomplished in life, and you build an organization, Bonei Olam, which back then we were up to thousands and thousands of babies, he said those words, I'm more proud of you at this moment than of any of my children. which was a line. This was not his style to say it. And the truth is, I have very special brothers. We are a beautiful family. Two of my brothers are huge Talmidei Chachamim. The other one's a huge Baal Tzedakah. And he really enjoyed all of his children. He's very proud of his children. But that's the line that he said. And this went out in public, viral. And so he, every day, he used to call me in the morning and say, Shlomo, if you're in town, please come up. I used to come up there. He used to tell me, you don't have to do anything, just sit next to me. I used to put my hand on his hand just to make him feel comfortable. And many times he would tell me, maybe you want to learn with me. And I used to learn with him, Gemara. And he listened. He was a man that learned his years. He tried to make up a lot more in the last few years to be close to me than he was given a chance before. So then you learn that it was never chas v'shalom that he didn't have any warm feelings for you. He also had a hard time how to deal with this pain with his son, not knowing how to. But when he was getting older, I guess things fall away and we get to the real core, to the real thing.
Can you say your father's full name? It's never
My
too
father's
late.
name was Shalom ben Eliyahu. Shalom ben Eliyahu.
I'm sure he's having so much nachas upstairs, one flight up from you till today, and may you merit to have him so soon with Mashiach. Now I'm going to ask you, because you come from such special parents, um, Holocaust survivors, the Rebbe said that they have the power to bless people. So if they have if they have the power to bless people, that means that they have a special gift. So I'd love for you to share one of your favorite, most special stories with your mom.
That's going to be a very tall order because I was extremely close to my mom. So most of these stories, I was not a mommy's boy because my mother was not that kind of a nature. My mother was a very intelligent person, but I happened to have been very close to her, especially when my mother didn't live many years after our painful story began. So, but in those few years, I was very close to her, and she became very ill in those years. And since I had no children then, so I was always around her. And I gotta salute my wife Khani. Every night we used to travel. She used to come down to Mount Sinai Hospital for my mother. My mother was there for in a stretch 13 months in the hospital. She was very ill, but she was very, to pick a certain line about her. Well, the story how she behaved to my neighbor with my sister was something which meant a lot for me. She was a true servant of Hashem. I remember one time when I came up to her and I sat down on the couch next to her and we were talking, but I really came because I was going through a hard time. It was the beginning of my challenges. And when there was nobody in the room, I said, Ma, life is so hard. I can't maneuver. As much she was in pain, she was crying. She looks at me, she says, Mein Kind, you have to remember that this world is run by Hashem. Has nothing to do that I can do for you more as a mother than any other person. As much as I love you, you're my life. The only thing I can do for you is make you aware that Hashem runs this world. And whatever you have to go through, hurts, it's painful, but this is what Hashem wants you to go through. But I had this cause in very, very hard times in her illness that I was there with her to save her from a lot of pain and hurt. I used to be in the hospital every day in those 13 months. I made sure the nurses do not jab her more than they have to. I really, really took care. So we had this one episode which my mother was a very strong person. You never saw her cry in public. Never. She was the rock of the family, actually, even though she was so ill. But one time I was there at night with her in the hospital and she had a very hard night. And she sat up in bed and I saw her the first time crying. Not too long before that story, we were thought she was dying and I was there alone and I said Vidi with her. She didn't even cry. But this time she was sitting on bed. It was the first time I saw her cry. So I sat down next to her and said, Mommy, is there anything I can do for you to lessen your pain? And she said, I don't talk about this silly stuff. She says, I'm crying because I'm leaving this world and I'm leaving my son, Shlomo, which is me, without any children. For all the pain that she went through in life, she was dying. She was in pain. She had cancer. She was leaving a family behind. This is the only thing that hurt her death. So I asked her, Mommy, why do you say your son Shlomo? You have other children too. Wouldn't the pain be the same? She said, you're right. I said something silly. One of my children. This is a moment which I will never forget in my life. She was a person that actually was able to show more consideration for my pain than my father, I must say. She was a very, very intelligent, very smart, and very brilliant woman. But it's hard for me to pick anything special because she was a very special person. I remember she asked me before she passed away that I should always make sure that every Matzah Shabbat I should wash from a lava malka. This was something which was very custom, a mitzvah, but us very hard. She wanted me to learn all my life. She didn't want me to go out to work. She was a very special person. It's hard for me to pick something more than the interactions in very sensitive moments, which left more of a mark on me than actually one particular story. But if I had to pick a story, the story would be how she was Makarov, this little Yisrael from around the block, my sister's friend. This to me is my memory. Whenever she used to bake something, cake, cookies, okay, she was a good baker, always made sure that the Rifki around the block gets some of it. Having another person in mind for years, every day in life, is something which is not a once happening, which you somehow championed on it. Living your life that way is a much more of yeah, this was mommy. This is mom. She's not here with us for many, many years. She she died 1984. Now we're up to 2025. But she's still with us. She's still with us. She's a mom that never left. Yeah.
Oh, what's her full name?
My name? Her name.
What her name?
Yehudis Baschaya.
Okay. She should continue to be so proud of you. And again, she's just one floor up, like we spoke about.
Yeah.
You could see that I've been crying listening to your talk because everything that you're saying is just so beautiful. I'm not one to cry in public, but it's okay. Sometimes it's okay to cry, and it's okay for the audience to see it, and it's okay to feel. So I just want to say, from hearing this before we move on, is it's very nice, all these stories that we heard, and it's very touching, but what are we going to do about it? So I want to elevate their neshamas. So today I'm going to ask everyone to really listen to these stories. And when you do those mitzvos, do it in their honor. And if you don't do those mitzvos yet, consider to do those mitzvos. And could you just explain for those that don't know the reason why it's so, if you know, I'm sure you do, the reason why it was so important for your mom to wash for Malava Malka on Motzei Shabbos?
Well, by many Hasidim, this is a way of. I don't think I ever missed from a little boy on till now. Ever missed washing from Lava Malka. My mother herself used to wash every Motzei Shabbos from Lava Malka. I know Bachsid, this is a very much custom, but some of I would say the last few years, a lot of people somehow let loose on that custom. She wanted to make sure that that custom stays on strong with us. Don't know why she picked that more than anything else. Maybe she saw this at home. Her father was a huge, huge Talmud Chochem, and she was her father's favorite. There were 3, 4 siblings. She was the youngest. Her father used to sit and learn with the Bochner, and she was a little girl, and she sat on a high chair next to her father when he was teaching the boys. She was a very learned woman. She learned so much from her father. She was a very, very smart, very intelligent, a brilliant mind. Different, so very little different than my father. My father was not brilliant like she was, but she comes from a different kind of a family setting. But I think it's important to go over now about Bonai Olam. So
Let me,
I
let me
think,
It is very important. Okay, so Bonai Olam, tell us how it started. What made this organization start? So if you can start from the
yeah.
beginning.
So Bonai Olam actually is not something that anybody sat down and drew a plan. we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It all happened, unfortunately, when I think me and my wife were facing the hardest moment in our lives. We were finally told that it's not going to happen in this time around for us to have children. And I can't say physically, but in my mind, I flew off my handle. My wife is a much stronger person. My wife is a very, very special person, Hani. Very strong person, very cool-headed, and knows exactly what she wants to accomplish. And she told me that time, Hashem told us no to our request for so many years, but we're going to answer with a resounding yes, and we're going to help other people have children, even though we were not zeicher to children. And that should be considered as our children. I looked at my wife and says, honey, are you okay? But how are you going to be helping other people? I'm not interested. So to make a long story short, she said, if you don't want to help me, I'm doing this on my own. So exactly what are you going to be doing? She says, through our ordeal, we met many, many, many people, which is so true. We traveled the world to try to find the solution to our problem. And we always found people that could not continue treatments only because of money. It was always expensive, good doctors all over the world, even in countries where, so to speak, there is a national health program. With these programs, you never get to anybody big or anybody to be serviced by a lab which is recognized. You get what you pay for. This is the bottom line. So, not that we were able to afford it, but I worked on 3 jobs. I literally worked on 3 jobs every day, trying to catch up with my payments for our treatments. Nobody supported us. Nobody gave us. Nobody even, in those days, it never dawned on anybody really what the cost is. It wasn't an issue spoken in public. So somehow after prodding and prodding, she got me involved in the organization. And I ended up doing something which,
Can I just ask you a question before you continue? How long before, okay, so how many years were you paying out of pocket for fertility treatments? Like what year are we in that after when your wife said, let's start an organization? Because she saw people crying, like you said, that they couldn't pay for payments. And when did you know it was time that it's not happening for you?
well, the time that I knew was not happening for us because by then I learned the medicine of this whole thing very, very thoroughly. Not that I had any plans to do anything with it, but this is the way I am. But I'm doing something I would like to understand from bottom up exactly what's happening. So I was expecting that line to come because we failed, unfortunately, many tests and we did everything. So I knew it's coming. I didn't know when it's going to come, but when it came with such a, that last, you always hope it's never going to come to those words, but those words came. Actually, the doctor told us it's not going to happen anymore in this lifetime cycle for you. So, but I knew already in my heart. That's what actually broke down. But we were trying at least 24 or 25 years to be able to get to even. I remember I used to, if I would print all my dealings and all my communications with Hashem, to some people be like a comic book, very funny the way I spoke to Hashem. To some people, it'd be very painful. But I used to try to deal with Hashem from every corner for the best as I can. And I remember I once told Hashem, I'm not asking you for more than only one child. I know I'm not having a family, but give me this one child. So it came to a point that we saw this is not happening. And this is when and we're doing already Bonai Olam for 27 years, 26 years plus 25 is 51 years. Yeah, this is more or less my plus I got married by 20 and change. This is my age, and this is the cheshbon of the years that we've been doing it. So, but it's also interesting to note, which is important for the audience to know, what I share this many times with people, a person does not know what a koyach and what a siyata dishmaya Hashem will give a person when that person decides to do something good in life. Our Atzloch and Bonai Olam is not something which I can lay claim in any way, shape, or form. I'm smart enough, I'm a learned person enough to know and understand that every step of the way was Mamish Yata Dishmaya. I was able from the beginning on to reach the biggest and the best doctors that I cannot use for myself. I couldn't get to them. Once it became a service for the public, for Klal Yisrael, doors opened up just like that. Didn't even know who I was, but I was able to somehow connect people to the best available. And then came the issue with money. And this is something which I really didn't want to be involved in. because even though I raised by now almost probably over $300 million for Bonai Olam, and me and my wife never took a penny from it. We're not paid people. We do this only l'shem shemayim for Kodesh Baruch Hu. We have branches open all over the world. Europe, it's Israel, Canada, the United States, from the West Coast down to the East Coast. But if I look back, everything that happened, that Hashem sent me this person now, sent me this person then. I got surrounded by people that know medicine so well that I never met before in my life. They all came to me. I didn't have to go after them. But I was day one very much sleep. But when it comes to fundraising, I really didn't want to do it because it's very hard for me to go to people and ask them for money. And in those days, people were not so intelligent about it. So I had to give up my private life, always talk about this in public. People thought I was crazy. Couples didn't have any children were embarrassed to be together with me in their room where I spoke. How can you speak so? I never went into details, but I was talking about the pain, about the hurt, what people can do. This was something a lot of people had a very hard time to swallow this in those days. I had friends from all the years from before. They really thought that I went Lunu. But in the end, it became a public issue. It's a health issue. And people started relating it to a lot more. And look, for 25, 26 years, we did very well financially to raise the awareness and money in Klal Yisrael. We're going to be touching soon 14,000 babies in Klal Yisrael from Bonai Olam. It's a number, 14,000 in only primaries. But secondaries, we're up to almost 21 and change, 21,000. You're talking here about almost a shavet in Klal Yisrael. And it's not me, and it's not my wife. This is Klal Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If we really want to be honest with ourselves and think back, we can see that everything had somebody towing the line, coming to me, going for me. Nothing had to do with my chachma, with my wisdom. No, not at all. So it's Hashem's program. It felt like that Hashem was waiting for thousands of years this thing to happen, and the second somebody ignited a spark, there it goes. It blew up. But the truth is, everything in life is that way too. I've learned when you want to do something good, even though it's very hard for you, I must say this was Bonai Olam is my personal biggest challenge in life, more than all my pain, all the years that I went through struggling with infertility. That was a personal pain. Now it pains me for other people. Pain for other people is more hurtful than your own pain. Somehow you deal with your own pain, but being constantly involved and watching other people hurting, and you know in your heart that you can help them in certain ways, and you're somehow barred from doing it, very hurtful, very painful, because there's nothing that you can justify, nothing that you can make yourself feel comfortable. Oh, I did. No, as long as the person's in pain, we haven't accomplished. So Bonai Olam started from a very small corner, and somehow Hashem made it become big. We got connected to the biggest and best. By now, we have our own 3 different our own laboratories, which we do a lot of stuff for clients, so they shouldn't have to go in a public way. Shouldn't be embarrassed, something which is done in privacy. We do the best we can to take off a lot of the pain from people going through this and trying to help them finance the treatments. Hashem is very good to us in medicine. Medicine and fertility is really, I think, at its peak, how much we can help people. Yes, unfortunately, still going to be people that are struggling, which my heart goes out for them, because I would love, this is my nature, I would love everybody. I don't like when people are left out of the body. I want everybody in. Being together is more than anything else, so it hurts me for little, but I don't run the world. I'm just not, I wish I could do just that little thing. If Hashem would let me fix the world in that little corner, everybody should be able to preserve to have a child, but Hashem still runs the world. So now we're going to be going into a campaign, which is what Kronites about, which actually we're going into a campaign for all Klal Yisrael. And this year was my hardest, toughest year in fundraising. For many reasons, a lot of people are not doing that well. I'm not judging Chas v'Shalom ill Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael is always the best people, but people are struggling. The growth of patients needing help is growing at such an alarming rate that's almost not sustainable. A lot of people, Baruch Hashem, got married. Unfortunately, there's a lot more issues of cancer that is happening amongst the young children, which we get involved for cryopreservation. a lot more singles that are not getting married, which becomes an issue for us also, a lot more genetic issues as we grow and grow. So basically the demand is so overwhelming. And with the economy not doing that well also, I find myself standing there on the field with a white flag. I'm trying, I don't know which way to turn it. I'm surrendering because I can't go on. To me, it's a very hurtful thing because I honestly believe that this pain, since it's conquerable with money, we should have, it should be our priority not to let another eat in pain even for one more week, one more month. It just should, again, maybe because I'm super sensitive to it, maybe. But imagine there would be a cure for cancer, just it would cost money. What would a person do to cure cancer? He would do everything. He would sell whatever you can. Some people, Baruch Hashem, are healthy. They don't have cancer, but they don't have children. And it's a very, very painful life. It's not a life. And if there's a way that we can somehow help out these people, why wouldn't we do anything possible in the world to give these people a chance to have a family? So actually, I'm very grateful that you gave me a chance to share because it's very painful to me. I just came back from Canada. I was there for 2 days, traveled by car, came back by car in the nights. I tried so hard to, because we have a huge branch in Montreal, and I wanted to make sure now they're covered for the next 2 years. And it didn't go easy. It was very hard. There was hours in the day that I couldn't get to anybody. And here I just wanted to accomplish before I go home. Canada should be okay for the next 12 months. It became very, very challenging. Medicine is doing very well. Medicine is extremely well for us. So this became the challenge is money, which even though I worked very hard all my life to raise money for it, but now basically I feel like that I'm against a brick wall. I'm just not getting there where I need to get. So I hope people will understand that this should become more of a priority and not let, and everybody knows somebody that is struggling. This is a fact. Whether the man goes to shul and there are men there davening, they see them coming in the shul, they have no children. Whether the woman goes to work and there's a workmate doesn't have the children, or a woman that goes to it, this pain is so around, it hurts. I think Ishmael is being looked at in a very negative way. How can we allow another person, if we can be there of help to him, and most of the people in these days, which are not moving ahead at the pace that they need to go to be able to have a child, I would say mainly is because of financial resources. It became prohibitively expensive. They drive up the price for it because they know this is a very sensitive issue, and people will do anything in the world possible to have a baby. Those that really want to have a baby, to have a very, very lucrative audience to take advantage of them. This is the way it is. I myself sometimes will argue with doctors, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? I know medically this is not even important. You're just putting a strain on us to be able to pay for another bill. I could take that money, help another couple have a baby. Come on. But this is what it is. This is the fact. My message, if I have to leave a final message for Klal Yisrael, is we should never despair. Even though I failed, I must say, I failed. I didn't get what I needed, what I wanted. So I can't say that everybody will always be answered for what he is asking for. I failed. I'll be lying to say that. Everybody knows I have no children. This was my ask of my life. So we can never live with this thought. If you have a minna betochen, Hashem will give you what you really wanted. No, this is not true. But what is true is that once you reach a level believing that Hashem really controls this world, there's two ways you can walk away with this. It's either you start believing and understanding that whatever is happening to you is this what Hashem wanted, and this is the best for you, and stop complaining because this is, you might not feel it or see it now, but Hashem really runs the world, and this is the best for us. But the second thing I really wanted to share is maybe even more painful, but it's the truth. Hashem has a need for people in Klal Yisrael. His needs from Eden and Klal Yisrael are very different than what humans perceive what the tafkid of a person in this world is. Many great people that we knew, they were the biggest tzaddikim that we ever imagined we're going to meet, did not have any children in their lifetime. but they were zeicher to do something with their lives, which are much more remembered and cherished than people that were billionaires in their lifetime, and when they're gone, they're gone. There's nothing left from them. We have to want to do something and understand what our mission in life is, so we can do something so big, which is going to be actually why we came to this world. There's no reason in the world that me and my wife had no children. We're two normal people. We were two good people. I must say, I was always part of the chem. There's nothing wrong with us. It's only like Hashem said, no, you're not having a baby. I remember the words the doctor told me, Rabbi Bochner, I love you. Hurts me to tell you that. But it's not going to happen in your lifetime. So what does that mean? You have to accept it and move on. And to be honest, not to be a big shot about it, me and my wife will definitely zerch to do something for class, which I don't take any credit for it. And I mean it with full of my heart. I know this is all Hashem. Do you know of another human being that was able to build an organization to service a fertility issue in Klal, and have 14, and hopefully it's going to remain to help everybody? And who am I? Nothing. I'm nothing more important than anybody on my block or on my shul. There's much bigger to me, the chachamim around me, much bigger tzaddikim around me. I'm nothing. I'm a plain person. But somehow Hashem gave me the sense to take on this mission. Maybe because I thought this is the best job that I can do without having children. But here we are. The Klal was there for us. And we were there for Klal Yisrael. And if I can just stretch my plea that all the people that have a shaykhs, a connection, the Chabad, Lubavitch, Karnak, whichever way you want to name it, understand there are people in your community which ultimately they're going to come to me as the responsible party to help them build a family. And if you're not going to be there with us fully, with a full heart, you're basically not giving me a chance to be there for them. And at this point in my life, this is the only wish that I really have, to be able to do this mitzvah with a full heart and help another family create another shidduch should be able to happen, even though they're struggling with a certain genetic mutation that we have to figure out a way how to do it. Our work is endless. Literally, we work almost 24 hours a day for everybody in Klal Yisrael. Include me. Include me in your daily routine, in your daily tefillos, in your daily mitzvahs amasim tovim, in your daily tzedakah, so we should be able to all bring much more happiness for everyone in Klal Yisrael.
We are going to include you, but I have something to add. So if you don't mind, just to say your name and your wife's name so we can include you guys in. And I have to say that you did not fail, and I have to respectfully disagree, and I'll say a story in a moment.
My name is Schlomo ben Yehudis. My wife's name is Chanisora Bas Golda Elka.
Hashem should give you both so much strength to continue doing this holy mission that you're doing. And the first time I heard you spoke at Bonai Olam, it was in Crown Heights, and I was just blown away. And I said to myself, you're the first person I met that is the closest person that I can say is like the Rabbi. I mean, the Rabbi is a tzaddik, but you come right after that. And that's what I felt. And I'll tell you a story why I respectfully disagree. The Lubavitcher Rebbe wasn't, and his wife, his Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka, wasn't blessed with children. And I'm sure it was really painful for the Rebbe because someone that has so much love and to give to other, he had the most pain for himself. In fact, a doctor, Crown Heights, Eastern Parkway, all the homes over there were mostly like doctor offices, dentists. It was known even before 770.
I remember it. I remember those offices. I grew up in Crown Heights.
I grew up on the block of 770, and
Oh,
my home was bought from a doctor. And it's incredible. So my father grew up by the Rebbe since he was 9 years old. He came from the DP camps, and it could be that your father and my grandfather for sure knew each other because my grandparents grew up on Montgomery Street between Kingston and Brooklyn, and they all knew each other. Everyone. It was a very small community, but everyone knew each other, and it was a beautiful time growing up in Crown Heights in those days. And because it wasn't just the Chabad. I mean, today there's a lot of different types of people living in Crown Heights, but It's mainly Chabad. Back in the day, it was every type of sect, every type of Hasidus lived in Crown Heights. And it was very beautiful. And a man came over to my father. He was a dentist. And he said, if you only knew how much pain your rabbi was in, you wouldn't bother him. His Hasidim wouldn't bother him. And someone came to Rabbi Chaim Mushka. Not many people were privileged to know her, but the ones that did, some of them shared. And someone came to her, and there's a song that was made for it. And they said, where are your children? That's a really painful question to ask someone. And she said, my children are in 770. So I'm going to say you didn't fail, because she thought her children was me and all the Hasidim, and your children are all those 14,000 children that were born because of you and your wife. So you didn't fail. You succeeded over the top. I want to say that there's no secret that myself and my husband are waiting for children. And there's a reason why I take a page every single year for Bonai Olam Chabad. And every year I raise the amount even more than what a baby would cost. And I feel very privileged. And I just want to say that one day I will share with the world why I took on this mitzvah to do this, because sometimes when you're in pain, it's really hard to put yourself out there, and it's really hard to be vulnerable. And when you hear this message, please don't call me. We don't, people in this situation, we don't want feedback, and we don't want to say like, we're praying for you all day. It's very nice. Tell me when the blessing comes. So when the blessing comes, because I have full faith, I got a bracha, a blessing from the Lubavitch Rebbe when I was a little girl. It's on video for my ganze mishpacha, so it will happen, and I believe it with my full being. I do this yearly because of a certain story. And one day, my husband gives me permission to share the story when we have the blessings. And you will understand, and you will feel very lucky. It's a merit to be part of this campaign that's going out. And it's even a merit to go out through my page, because every single time I raise that money, and I never imagined that I would be able to raise $18,000, but it's because of all of you and all of my friends, all of my loved ones, and I put out a vulnerable post. But it doesn't come from the big amounts. It comes from the small amounts. In fact, someone called me for a donation for something, and I told her, I'm like, I can't give that amount. And she was like, I'm not looking for small amounts. Anyways, I am looking for small amounts, because every amount counts. $1, $5, $10, $18, $36, $100. It all adds up. And that is how I was able to raise over $18,000 every single year from all of my loved ones and friends. And if you could give more, please do. And please put it on my page, because it brings me a lot of joy and comfort to know that maybe because of my situation, I'm also helping to bring more children into the world, because we're a unit, we're a team. So I just want to say that I am going to take another page. They called me and asked if I would take a page this year, and I said, sure, yes. And it's not easy for me to raise money. I actually do not like raising money, but sometimes we have to. And I have a gift, and I have a lot of resources, and I know a lot of people. And now, if you weren't crying, you see my face. I was crying the entire talk because it touched me. And it didn't just touch me because of my situation. It touched me because Rabbi Bochner didn't get the opportunity to have his blood children in this world. But we can give him joy. How much joy it gives me to have that page, $18,000 when it comes through, even though people said you'll never be able to do it, Chaya, but I did. How much more so will it give Rabbi Bochner and his wife, his lovely wife, how much money came in that they could help, and you will take off a load off his shoulders, a small load, because he looks tired right now. And it's not because he's playing, it's because he's working every single minute of the day. Now, I this is my first interview with Rabbi Bachner, and I'm so grateful that you did this interview. And I'm sure that when my blessing comes, we're going to do the second interview with my story together. But I just want to say that I really am so blessed that you have this organization, that you help people. And for those people that are able to afford to do the treatments, it's very nice, but it's not just that. They have a whole line of people that are supporters, and you can't just do it. Like, you need to have someone that you can call and speak to. You can't just call your mother or your father, like you heard Rabbi Bochner say. It's not comfortable to speak to your family about it. You don't want people to pity you. And I don't want anyone to pity me. And I don't want anyone to, no one wants anyone in pity, but it sometimes gets very hard. But I would say the hardest part of the journey is sometimes people's comments. Like Rabbi Bochner said in Shul, he ran out. Why did he run out? It's because people didn't make him feel comfortable in Shul. People didn't make him feel comfortable in the circles. It didn't just happen overnight. He wasn't just that man that said, I'm not comfortable. People get very awkward. It's like he explained himself when he got up and was vulnerable in the beginning, when it was, who spoke their feelings, and people literally like made fun of him or thought he was nuts. We're not nuts, and we need your help. So I'm going to ask everyone today, if you listen to this, if you can please give something, and if you can give a little bit more than you did last year, because I want to be that person that helps people, because I believe that's one of my missions in life. And I'm really so humbled to have, this was one of my most special interviews that I got to do. And done many special interviews. I'm very blessed and lucky to have this opportunity that Hashem and the Rebbe gave me to bring out light into the world and people to share their life journeys and stories. So I'm going to end off with just saying thank you to Hashem and the Rabbi. The Rabbi is my partner in this class, because how do I get to all these amazing speakers? Like Rabbi Bochner said, it's because Hashem believes in this mission and the Rabbi believes in me and this mission. I want to say thank you to all the ambassadors of this class. An ambassador is someone who spreads this class on their chats and their statuses. And in 1 minute, poof, light goes out into the world. And I share my merits with you. So please consider becoming an ambassador today. I want to say thank you to everyone that tunes into this class weekly, and I am grateful for all your feedback. Please send feedback. I send all the feedback to all the speakers weekly. It's just very nice to hear feedback, and then it gets them to sometimes say, hey, I'm going to come back on our program. I got good feedback. So send feedback, because it helps me by you sending feedback. I want to say thank you to my mashpia, my mentor of this class, Shandy Jacobson. I'm honored to have her on board, and she is a light and a gift. And I just want to say that if you don't have a personal mashpia, it's worth it to get one. It will make your life so much better. And then lastly, I want to say thank you to the most important person, my dear husband, who really helps me behind the scenes. And even though this is not his, I wouldn't say this is his mission in life, but he supports my mission and he puts it on the YouTube channel and he gives me his time, because he's much more techie than me. I'm not a tech person. So I'm very grateful to my dear husband Izzy, and Hashem should bless him with all the blessings. My merits should be his merits, our merits. So I said, he knows what blessings I want him to have. I want him to have the world. I want us to have the world. So thank you to my dear husband, and thank you to Rabbi Bochner today for sharing this important talk and your stories and your beautiful stories of your parents and your family, and we should elevate their souls, their holy souls, those that are no longer in this world today with us that we can see. They are very much here, but may we see them so soon with the coming of Mashiach. And very soon, you should know the reason why you had to go through this, and you will, because the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, Mashiach is coming in this generation. So we just have to make that happen. And how can we make Mashiach happen? By bringing more goodness and kindness into the world. Now, what does that mean? That sometimes with money and that sometimes with good deeds, you can do it in a lot of ways. But today, let's bring Mashiach more into the world. So every single soul that needs to come back for Mashiach will come. And how can we do that? With helping Bonai Olam today. So please be a partner with us. I'm grateful and honored and humbled that I had the pleasure of interviewing you. Thank you, Rabbi Bochner.
Thank you. It was very appreciated. I am extremely exhausted. I'm not going to say no. I think this morning I had a nap the first time this whole week, but it meant to me a lot, and it's a very. I do believe in this mission too. I do believe in this mitzvah, and if my blessings mean anything, I want to bless you and your husband. We should be zeicha because this hear and see simchas by you and the family. We should all be able. It should be a major chizik for Klal Yisrael, for people to do for other people. And I need to sign off because I have other people waiting for me. And whatever we did today should be matzlich. It should reach the right people's ears, the right people's hearts. We should be able to do something so big, that it should bring us maybe the final mitzvah that we need before Mashiach comes.
God bless you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.